Hi, thanks for joining our event today. I'm going to give a very brief overview of the impact the cultures of different modelling paradigms have on the way modelling practices evolve in different segments of the financial services. Before I go into specific examples of the different modelling cultures in quantitative finance, I want to discuss one of my favourite papers, which is called Statistical Modelling, the Two Cultures. And this paper was written by the statistician Leo Breiman in 2001. Despite being published in 2001 during the early days of applied machine learning, I think Breiman's paper remains remarkably relevant today. This paper was written after Breiman worked as a consultant using random forests and neural networks, and then returned to academia. And in essence, it highlights the subtle yet fundamental distinction between the core objective of conventional statistical modelling versus data science. So Breiman argues the difference between these two cultures is the way nature's box is perceived. In conventional statistical culture, you assume the box contains some form of stochastic data model, and you can estimate the model's parameters from the input data. Machine learning, however, treats the contents of the box as unknown, or at least partly unknowable. This approach centers on finding a function that operates on the input variable to find the response variable. Machine learning algorithms are generally based on optimized performance against metrics, and the most critical of those metrics is accuracy, usually. So Breiman also gives some general perspectives on modeling issues. The Rashomon effect is based on the Japanese movie that depicts different characters recounting the same event from contrasting perspectives. And Breiman uses it here as an analogy for the multiplicity of grid models. He also mentions Occam's razor and the tension created by increased accuracy in predictive models coinciding with decreased interpretability. And then finally, he mentions the curse of dimensionality, which he uses to refer to the traditional approach of reducing the number of prediction variables for a model by calculating the significant features. Breiman, however, highlights that dimensionality can be a blessing. Higher dimensionality can mean more information for prediction. So while it's important to consider whether a particular modelling approach is suitable for the specific use case, it is also important to consider the cultural and modelling paradigms that already exist. So in the context of finance, models can diverge on fundamental quantitative principles. For instance, we can compare statistical-based credit modelling with partial differential equation-based derivatives modelling. And at the core of these different approaches is the role structure plays in the methodology. So OTC derivative models like Black-Scholes and Hull-White can be considered as state-of-the-world models, and they rely at some level on solving a PDE equation. In the case of portfolio optimization, it's some form of optimizer that needs to be solved. To be able to obtain the optimal portfolio, an optimization structure is necessary. And the financial models I just mentioned are often built around a structural concept, which represents a simplified view of the world. Securitized fixed income models in the US, for instance, are much more based on empirical statistical modeling, shaped by dataset assumptions and their distribution. Likewise, classical equity models rely on statistical modeling for parameterization. And conflicting theories such as option theoretic modeling versus statistical modeling cause cultural differences between business line practices and can create challenges when integrating teams or transferring roles. Despite these differences, conventional modelling approaches in finance are often based on a defined structural prior, whether that be mathematical or statistical. And the rapid growth of data science and machine learning in finance has introduced yet another modelling culture with a completely different approach to structural priors. So even within the machine learning paradigm, there are debates on the role of innate priors. And if anyone's interested, I put a screen grab of a debate between Jan LeCun and Christopher Manning, and the debate was over whether structure is a necessary good or a necessary evil. Jan LeCun argues it's a necessary evil, whereas Christopher Manning argues it is a necessary good. Thank you for listening.